Welcome back to Stationeers, and everything's broken. Oh no! For some reason, the air conditioner has decided to shut off. No idea why. And it won't turn back on. Nope. We have power all the way over there. So I was just wondering whether it was going to be the APC or not, if this had some kind of limit that that required us to get rid of. So I thought I'd turn this off and replace it with a transformer. And let's just make sure I got this the right way around, because it still should provide a sub-network just in case we need it in the future. But now let me just set this up to, let's say, 2000 watts. Nope. I don't know why that. I don't know. Power cable is right here. Goes into one, goes into the other. It just doesn't like it. At this point, I have run out of ideas about fixing that, so I don't know what's going on. I did kill my plants because basically it got jammed in here. If we have a look, pressure is 9.4 MPa, and the pipes may have a maximum pressure of 10, so I don't want to push it any further. At the same time, I just want to, have this fixed. So what I was just wondering is, if we deconstruct it, that obviously that shouldn't bleed out because it should become a sealed pipe. Will you now let me fix you that way? I really hope so. Will you activate now if I tell you to? Yes, you will. Okay, so this is a little bit dodgy, I think. Start. And all this stuff rushes towards this end of the thing, which is fine. Do we have a... That's dropping, and we should end up with whatever the final pressure is. You see it rushing from one side of the room to the other. One of the issues I was having is I thought we were having a leak, so what I did was reverse all of these walls. They now point inwards instead of pointing outwards. That was the previous cause of the bug, in that the walls were pointing the wrong, well, they weren't pointing in the wrong direction. If they were sticking into a block, the interior of that block was miscalculating things as a vacuum, and so stuff was getting lost. But that's now been fixed, so let's see if interior of the block will actually work in this case. Let's just drop you off. And there's been a bunch of other changes as well. Some of them very nice, very welcome. Some of them have completely broken my previous builds. Just to be clear, let's go and have a look, shall we? So I'll come back to the hydroponics maybe next episode, once I've figured out what's going on. So down here, let's pop inside, and you'll see the first big change. And this is by popular demand on the Discord, at least, if not elsewhere. Wall lights are higher range now. So you see I've turned off all the wall lights, apart from that one in the corner, just to give you an idea of what it's like. You can see, hopefully you can see that if I had a range of my portable light, that floor is actually still visible even on YouTube. And if I turn on the rest of the wall lights, you get the idea. This is the same as the wall lights that they were there before. Hopefully you can see that's much lighter now. Yeah, I quite like that change. Basically the range has been increased from 4 meters to 7, so we've got that. The previous build for the solid battery backup or battery charging circuit is broken because the computer can no longer read these. Let's just turn it on and you'll see what I mean. So in fact, it's even lost. It's lost some of my settings. Let me just reset this back up again. Set you to state 1, and then we want solid generator to on. What? Actually, that's trigger high on 0 is fine. Yeah. So previously I could just read these. I can't anymore, so I may need some readers. I've turned everything off because it just wasn't working. Essentially, all of the logic circuits have been changed now, so that computers access the same variables that the logic chips can, which sort of means the things that I was getting on here before have changed. So I can see power, which is whether the thing is on, I guess, but I also have something called on. I don't know what the difference between those is. Mode, error, and required power. none of those are what I'm really interested in. I want to see the result or the setting as it was previously called. So I assumed on might be it, and that doesn't appear to be working at the moment. So yeah, we'll come back to that. I'll probably just put a couple of readers in and read from those, hopefully. I don't think there's any readers in this network, so it probably can't see any. Okay, so over here as well, we've got some changes, and this one is actually quite a welcome change. Let me just turn you on, and you on, and the LED display on. Okay, so you can see it says 375 watts. There's a W. These LED displays are new, and to write to them to change mode, everything's changed now. So previously, let me just see. Am I actually writing? I'm just writing to the setting. So remember last episode or the episode before, I told you that the mode setting was the thing that sets the color. Well, not anymore. They've actually added a specific color setting. So mode now changes between the different display modes, so that you can go between a number or a, let's just decrease this. Oh, we need a screwdriver. You can go between a number and a percentage, so that's just the number, 0. Mode 1 is a percentage. You need to feed it between 0 and 100, obviously, so it doesn't really like 385%. Shame, but yeah. And then the third mode on state 2 is power, so wattage, and back to number after that point. I think they're probably reserving that for other things. So if you want a power display, just set it to mode 2, and then of course you can change this to color, and you can increase and decrease the color as before to whatever you like. Pretty cool. I do like that whole setup. I just can't spare the power at the moment because that extra hydroponics was draining my batteries faster than I had resources to build more solar panels. So I've turned a few things off. I'm going to go hunting for copper later because that's what we're going to need. And yeah, so that's good. I guess is there anything else to cover on logic that's changed? Yeah, just mainly that now the computers can access the same things as the logic chips, which should mean, remember the automatic furnace setup when I couldn't activate the furnaces via computer? You should be able to do that now. So if you want to do that completely with computers, you should be able to, I think. I may well cover that later once I have a bit more power, but we'll see. What else was I going to cover? The lights, logic chips, and let me just check. Nope, that was everything I want to cover, at least for the updates for the patches and stuff. Today we're going to be, let's move on to our main topic. Today we're going to be building a clock. Now, not the clock circuit that I previously built in one of the previous episodes to brute force the automation build, but not something that clicks between 0 and 1, etc. Nor I'm going to do something that counts up in seconds. You can do that just by multiplying the tick rate. The server ticks twice a second. So, you know, if you have that, of course, you can get 1 second increments that you can then add on to an LED display. We're not going to do that. What we are actually interested in is tracking the sun, or at least tracking the sun in a clock format. So we could say 0, excuse me, 0 is sunrise and 12 is sunset. That would be the simplest approach, but it's not quite like a real clock, is it? So we can say instead maybe that sunrise is 6 a.m. and sunset is 6 p.m., something along those lines, or rather 0600 and 1800. It's probably what we're going to have to do. And yeah, we need to figure out some way of building that number. So the daylight sensor has a couple of things you need to look at. One is, if you have a look here, there's grid sunlight, yes, and a solar angle. The daylight sensor will always give you a solar angle. It doesn't show it on the hover tooltip always, but when you're addressing it or reading it, it will always give you an angle. And that's the main problem in this whole circuit, because it's going to go from 0 at sunrise to 180 at sunset, but then it's going to start going back down again. It's going to go 180, 179, 178, etc. As it goes underneath the moon, the angle is being worked out by this. So I guess you could maybe combine multiple daylight sensors to get you a different angle and work out from that. I think we may be able to do something a little bit simpler, but let's give it a go anyway. And if you see me switch track halfway through this episode, you know I've run into a brick wall. But to start off with, we're going to take the daylight sensor. We've already got this reader, and I've just renamed it solar angle, so it's easy to actually see. Now, what we're going to need to do is to convert 0 to 180 to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 600, not 600, we mustn't do that, that'll be wrong. 6 a.m. to 1800. I shouldn't use AM when we're using that. So yes, 600 to 1800. All right, so how do we do that? Well, if it's 12 hours between sunrise and sunset, let's fake it because it's far too fast for 12 actual hours. Then that's going to be 12 hours times 60 minutes, 720 minutes. We're not going to be tracking seconds on this display. They would whir past if we did that. So 720 minutes in a day. All right, so 180 degrees, 720 minutes. Divide 720 by 180, and you get 4 minutes per degree. So if you multiply this by 4, if we wanted to know, let's say if we started sunrise at 0, for example, that would work fine because you get 0 times 4 is 0, and 180 times 4, you would get 720 back. So you'd then use some more math we're going to get to figure out sunset. However, we're going to need to do something different than that. And more importantly, if we're going to count past sunset, we need to do something a little bit trickier. What we need to do is figure out if it is past sunset and then use different figures, or at least add on extra amounts than what we would do otherwise. Okay, so the first thing we just need to do is, and this is for the simplest version, if you don't want to actually go through and work out more of the more complex version, is take a math unit. We're going to put an input of the solar angle. And on the other side, the input is going to be a logic memory that I've set to nothing at the moment, but we need to set that to 4. Okay, and then we're going to set this to multiply and turn it on. Okay, so as you can see, it's during the day and it's going to count up from 0 to 720. All right, so if you wanted to just do just that bit, then what you want to do is split it out. You'd want to divide by 60 to get hours, and then you could mod with that. Modulus is sort of a way of saying what's the remainder. It's like a divide. What's the remainder out of dividing by 60, and then that will be your minutes. So you could output both. You have to combine both of those and then output them to display of some kind. All right. So there is that. I'm not quite sure how you combine them though, because the display can only read one. You'd have to write to a memory. Yeah, you'd have to convert it into a number composed of those things, and then write it into a memory, which you'd then update the display with. We'll get to that. First of all, that is your basic. This math unit is the basic version, if you like. Just bear in mind that if you just output this, it will count backwards once it went past sunset. So let's put in an extra block, and then we'll explain that one. Okay, so the next block we're going to add to this is another math unit. This one is going to take another memory, and this one we've set to 720, or the time in sunset in minutes. You might think 180 because that's the degrees, but because we've already timed this by 4 in the first one, it's shorter just to go by the minutes. So 720. And what we're going to do, because this is now, you can see it now, see it's counting down again, we're going to reverse that. To reverse that, to get us the is it reciprocal? Yeah. No, not reciprocal. That'd be 1 divided by. We're basically going to get the time past 720. So to do that, we're going to take 720. There we go. Sunset minutes, which is that. And we're going to minus the daytime minutes. Okay, because this is going backwards now. So what that's going to do is count forwards. See? So that's 720 plus that is the time after sunset. Okay, so let's add the next few blocks to our puzzle. We're going to take, and this is these 4 and this one. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to read that daylight sensor. We're going to say, hey, are you active? I.e., is there sunlight? So we know it's, after dawn. Okay, so we know that. That's true at the moment. Then we're going to go with the mathematics here. So what we're going to do is take the nighttime minutes, which is 700, sorry, not nighttime minutes. Where are you? Nighttime minutes, there you are. We've already created. That's now counting backwards, of course. Don't worry about that for the moment because it's daytime currently. We're going to take nighttime minutes yeah, nighttime minutes. We're going to then add sunset minutes, which is this. So if you get the idea, at nighttime, when it hits 180 degrees, this is going to be 0. So 0 plus 720. So at sunset, it's going to hit 720 and it's going to start counting up here. So as you can see, it's counting down at the moment, but it will go from 720 up to 1440. All right. So we know the time after sunset. Then we need to correct the two of them together. So what we're going to then do is put a logic select unit in, and these are a bit confusing at first. What's going to happen is you're going to choose something, something to switch on, and it needs to be something that's true or false. So in this case, we're going to choose the same reader saying daylight. Okay, so we're going to say, is daylight true or false? Okay, if it's false, i.e. it's nighttime, we're going to choose nighttime minutes from dawn, which is this. If it's true, it's daytime, and then we can just read in daytime minutes, which is up here. So this is then going to have a value that during daytime comes from here, during nighttime comes from here, and the two together, output, should be the actual time since sunrise. So sunrise, that will be 0. At sunset, it gets to 1440. It gets a bit glitchy for the last half second, and then it resets to 0. So we can probably deal with that glitch. Maybe I guess there is a math unit flaw, or it's one of the processors. What is it now? Unary? Yeah, I think we can modify that to do flaw, or change it so that it goes into a full integer. Instead of 203 point something, we just want 203. We're not interested in so-called seconds. Okay, but we now have a counter that goes from sunrise at 0 all the way through to sunrise again just before 1440, which is exactly what we want. And I just rearranged that a little bit. Instead of putting the logic writer here, I've put this math unary here. So it's reading in the select unit and it's setting it to floor. Okay, so we now got an integer counting up, and the same logic writer I've just moved over, and it's taking that value and just writing it to minutes after sunrise. All right, quick change, but nonetheless a little bit important, just so we don't have to deal with decimal points and partial values for this. Okay, so a couple more quick changes. I did convert this back to just using the floating point value. It's simpler at this stage. I don't want to correct it because we're going to end up going back into floating point numbers in a minute, and so we may as well not correct that. So ignore the integer version. So we've got this value and we've got to do something with it. Now I'm going to do the simple clock first. That means 0 being sunrise. Okay, just because if you want something simpler than the whole layout, then you'll have a way to do that, at this point in the video. So what we're going to do is just transform this to hours and minutes. And earlier I said modulus, I meant modulo. Definitely meant modulo. I just remember it as mod. I don't remember the full name. We're going to divide it and we're going to mod it, or modulo it. First of all, the divide. We're going to take this and our minutes per hour, which is another logic unit up there, memory unit. Divide minutes after sunrise by minutes per hour, and we get the hours. So this is where we end up backing into a floating point number, or a decimal number. We want to have that dealt with later. We also do the same thing, but we modulo it by the same thing, minutes per hour. In this case, we're now getting the remainder. In this case, the minutes. So as you can see, that's counting up, and it shouldn't go past 60, otherwise we've got a problem. So 51, 52. Let's just make sure it's actually going to be just fine for us. Looks like it's going to be. Yeah, there we go. So it's reset itself. As you can see, the floating point digits we're not interested in. So what I think we should do with both of those is get rid of those. So we're going to use a math unary for both of them to get true hours and minutes. So I need to pick up this labeler, and let's just say, which one is it actually? that is the hours. So hours unary and minutes unary. So we've now got whole values, and that's why I didn't actually convert it over there. Yeah. So one thing we can't do is just dedicate these to digits on the LCD. So we have to transform this into an actual readout for time. So to do that, what we have to do is shift the hours across 2 digits. And the easiest way to do that is add zeros. In our case, we want to multiply it by 100. So I'm going to need another logic memory unit up there. And let's just change this to 100. And then from here, we can take the hours unary and multiply it. So if I turn it on and hours unary, and then we're going to take that because it's the only thing connected. So is that right? Hours unary. Oh, it's probably doing the wrong thing. It's adding. We want to multiply. There we go. So 2300 is the current time in hours. And then we're going to need to take the logic math. Do I need extra logic math? I think I just need to add now. So add, we're going to take in the input, which is this one. So we need to rename that first of all. So what are we going to call this? Running out of names. Clock hours. Let's call that. Okay. And I'm definitely going to have to put this whole thing on a subnetwork because I can select any part of this on the network over here. And do bear in mind, this is going to consume quite a bit of power. Just the warning. For a simple clock, you've got to deal with that. So I've got clock hours, and we're going to add that to minutes unary. Let me just turn that off. I'll just run out of charge with those. So input 1 is going to be clock hours. Input 2 is going to be minutes unary. Once we get to it, which is not as easy as you might think. It is called minutes unary, isn't it? Yeah, it is. There we go. Turn that on. And what? Clock hours? Clock hour. Oh, it's early in the day. So that is correct. Okay. I was just freaking out, but that is actually correct. That's an actual time. So all we need to do is read that. So let's just turn it on. Actual time. And then we can finally just grab a reader and insert it in here somewhere. I think I'm probably, am I going to need, that's annoying. Actually, that might work. Yeah, that should work. And we're going to read actual time. Actually, no, it's not a reader, is it? It's a writer. I'm being silly. Oh, I had a battery. I knew something would run out of battery before I actually got through this episode. There we go. 5. And change. Let's grab the full battery. Oh, helps if you press the right button. There we go. And put this back in here. I may as well use a large battery for everything. I've just not converted everything over. So let's just take you off. And you want to be a writer. Now, of course, you could use a batch writer if you had lots of LCD displays in your base and you wanted them all to read the time. So that would be perfectly fine if you wanted to do that. But for me, I'm just doing this as a kind of demonstration. So let's see. So the input is going to be actual time. And it is in here somewhere. There we go. And the output's going to be have to be the LCD display. Now, where did I put that thing? That's a wall cooler. Did I put it over here? It's going to be one of the lockers. I'm almost sure I deconstructed it. Construction kit consoles. I think that's it. Because if we right click, if we scroll wheel, we'll get an LCD display. So if I just want the small one, where's the input? The input's on the bottom. That will do just fine. And then we can put a junction and a junction. I'm going to rename it clock LED. Turn you off, change to you, and then we're going to say I want to find the clock LED in here. Hopefully it will be by proximity, but it doesn't appear to be. That'd be nice if it could sort by proximity, but we can't just yet. Are you in here? Come on, gotta find you somewhere. I normally I'll click too far. Oh, we really do need some way of going back on here. Wow, there we go. That's a long list. I definitely want to undo that. So we want to set the setting and flip it on and turn you on. Yeah. Why is that offset? I mean, it's right, but it's offset. What? Let's just actually cycle through. Why are you offset? It must just be something. This is a brand new LED, so it must be a problem with how the LEDs are rendering. So yeah, mess around with that in your own world. It does appear to be correct. If, after all, sunrise is at 0. So on this clock, midday is right now, which is 6 a.m. as far as that's concerned. So we've got a fully working clock. All we need to do is correct that to actually get a 6 a.m. sunrise, if we can. Okay, so for the last piece, instead of going from 0 to 23:59 from sunrise, we're going to shift everything forward by 6 hours. So we want sunrise at 6 a.m. So trivially, you might think if it's 0 hours, we can just add 6, and we can. So here's the hours unit. It's 7 at the moment, but we can always add 6 hours. So if we take 6 here and we add the 2, it's now 1 o'clock, or just after noon. Correct. The problem then becomes as soon as it hits sunset, it's going to be wrong. Or rather, as soon as it hits 2400, it's going to be wrong. It's going to continue counting up to 30. We don't want that. We're going to have to do something different. So what we're going to have to assess is, let's say, hours per day, which is what we put here, and a comparison, which is doing, is the shifted hours, i.e. +6, is that greater than hours per day? Is it greater than 24? Because we don't want a 25. I may have to shift this to 23. I can't remember. It's an off by 1 error if I get it wrong. It's so straightforward anyway. So yes, it is after midnight. All right. And then I've also got a math unit here saying hours shifted after 24. So we take this value and we're going to subtract hours per day. So it's essentially going to be a minus number during the daytime. But at night, or at least when we get through there, it's going to be fine. So we got these two values, and again, we need to select between them. So based on this comparison is after midnight, and I'm going to need to grab where's my screwdriver? There we go. So let's turn you on. We want the after midnight sort of function. And it's probably going to be clicking through a lot of these. Let me actually just get to the right setting. Okay, that's set up. So the select unit is saying, look at after midnight. If it's not after midnight, use the hours shifted. If it is after midnight, use the hours shifted out to 24, which is this. And we'll see if I'm off by 1 once that hits sunset. But now it shows an actual value, which is quite nice. And we're going to need a writer for this. So I'm going to need an IO unit. And where is, it's going to be further down here, isn't it? So logic IO. Nearly sunset. Not going to take very long at all. There we go. Let's just get a, let's put that in my pack, pick up logic IO. And now we're going to want to write to something that will, instead of this unary math, hours, we're going to, write then to the, we want in here somewhere. So the actual time we're getting from hours shifted is coming from math unary plus the logic memory. So I'm going to have to shift that around a little bit. Let me just do a bit of rearranging. Okay, I didn't need the writer after all. We could just change the select unit. We can just grab it right here, this clock hours. Instead of selecting, you know, this hours unary, we just select that final hours, which is what I've called this, and then everything is corrected. The problem's going to be is we don't have a greater than or equal to. And this is where I was wondering whether it was going to be 23 or 24. What's going to happen is it's currently testing whether this is going to be greater than hours per day, which is 24. So the problem here is it's going to be 23, and then it will stay to 24, and that's not what we want. We want it to go to 0, but we can't use the same number. We want to know if it's greater than 23, but then to subtract 24. So we're going to need another memory unit. You'll see in just a second if I'm right. Hopefully I am. Yep, there we go. So we're off by 1 just because we need to use 2 different numbers here. So we've got hours per day, which is fine, but we actually need a different comparison factor. So I'm going to leave that as is, I think. Yeah, we can just grab some cable coils, and a junction will do just fine for this one. And then we want the kind of midnight test, if you like. So we just need another logic memory. Won't take very long. So what I'm going to do is test if it's greater than 23, then we subtract 24. Sounds a little odd, but it does actually work out, or should actually work out just fine. So let's put in the other memory. Let's rotate you. And so that's hours per day. Let's just leave that alone. And instead, let's increase this one to 23. There we go. And now this compare is after midnight. Then that means we're going to need to compare not hours per day, but whatever we call this. So let's just grab the labeler. I've already got one. After midnight is the actual name of the comparison unit, so I mustn't call it that. So midnight, let's just call it 11 p.m, shall we? That seems to be pretty good. So now we can say, hopefully, if we got 11 p.m. fairly soon in this list, just stopped just in time. So is it after 11 p.m? Hour shifted greater than 11 p.m. If that's true, then we're then going to select on it and then choose the hours shifted after 24, because the other shifter is going off hours per day, which is why I didn't touch that. So now the clock should be correct. It is 2 a.m. at the moment, and 6 a.m. should be where we get the the sunrise. And of course, these actually don't follow. They don't follow the clock as such. When these get to the full extension, they start going backwards because they're only really looking at the solar angle. So we could correct those to just flip all the way over all at once if we wanted to with some extra electronics. I may do that later. But for now, we've got a fully corrected clock, I think. I don't think there's any bugs in here, other than the fact that it takes huge amounts of power to get a clock. But we've got a clock. Yeah, so if we just have a look at how much does it cost to do construction kit consoles, I wonder. Construction kit consoles. I just want to see if we can get a better... Take some iron, some gold, some copper. I want to see if we can get a better display than that. That kind of offset display is sort of annoying me. Let's just grab some iron. Pop the iron in. And yeah, let's just build 2 more, I think. There's 1 and there's 2. So I think the commenter said that in the previous video where I was wondering about this, that these essentially stack, and in case then you can just let's just change you over. You can use multiple of them to build something bigger. That seems to be big enough. LED display large. Yeah, that's big enough. And let's grab a cable coil and just swap out for this. Let's just get rid of you for a second. Put a junction in. Flip you to on. And let's rename you. So you're offset the other direction. Why? Why, Dean Hall? Why do you do this to me? Fine. Is the medium one not offset? Have they just forgot to correct something? So medium. Okay. Split mute on. No, you're offset as well. It's not the center of the grid, is it? That'd be incredibly annoying if it had to be the center of the grid. Let's just grab you, and let's just put a junction in here so everything's connected, and then we can cut that and deconstruct you. Also, let's just cut you for a second, grab all of these, and let's try and put the large one back in, shall we? You're in the center of the grid now, so if I'm correct, you should work. If I'm not, then I'm just out of ideas. Why? Oh, okay. I hope I'm not doing something stupid. I'm hoping that this is actually... Wow, those are big wire cutters. I'm hoping that I'm actually doing something correct, and there's just a bug with the current LED display. How about small again? Can we get it to be offset? It's offset the other direction now. Okay, so let's just move it on again. How are you if I put you there? Nope, there's just no way to correct this. Okay, so let's just put it in the large display, shall we? Because, yeah, hopefully it'll be corrected by one of the upcoming patches, and we can sort that one out. But for now, we want a large display, even though it might use more power. And then we're just going to rename this to clock LED again. Cool, and oops. I'm just going to want to drop that, and then where's my writer? Here it is. It's going to object. It's going to go, whoa, what are you doing? On the screwdriver. And we want to select the clock LED. And this might be a long list. It seems like you can only have the LEDs one way up, so it's always offset to the right. Ah, dear. So, yes, let's deconstruct you yet again. And flip you over. You need to have the power switch on top. That helps. Okay. And then I guess we can just get rid of that one and hopefully just put a junction back in. There we go. And you're still going to be offset, of course, but that's okay. Let's just drop you and rename you again. Without falling off. Clock LED. Yep. Go. And now I need to reset you again. And there, finally, we have a clock LED. And if your game is working, to center this, you know, when you actually put this together, then, you know, just feel sorry for me for having to go through it. But we've got a fully functional clock now. It goes from 6 a.m. at sunrise, noon, which it's about to hit, through to sunset at 6 p.m., of course, or 1800, goes through midnight and then comes back around. So everything is working. We've got a fully functional clock. Yes, there is a lot of electronics, but just briefly in summary, all of this section to the left is all of our initial sort of figuring out a way to get actual minutes. So from 0 through to whatever, 1440. And then we're going to render out to the display. And finally, we're going to, from this point onwards, shift everything forward 6 hours, unless it's beyond midnight, in which case we're going to subtract 24 hours from it to get back to 0. And that is our clock. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know it's been a lot of electronics. I'm trying to vary the episodes so they're not all electronics, but that is fine. It works. And I'm sure many of your commenters will probably come up with something that's actually a little bit more compact. I mean, I've not done with cable, no need to worry about the cable, but you might be able to get more compact with a number of processors. This is just more sort of common sense approach rather than, you know, completely optimized. But it is actually working, and we've got a clock we can see from wherever we are. Even though it's using power, but power is essentially free just by putting in more solar panels, isn't it? So there's no big worry there. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and share with other people who might want to see a fully functioning clock in Stationeers. And we'll see you next time.